There is a soft whisper in the air for you today. Not to hype you, but to steady you. God says your next spouse will not just love you, they will invest in you and the life you are building. This is not the kind of love that only shows up when it feels good. This is the kind of love that shows up to build something real. If you want more messages like this, subscribe now so you stay aligned and protected in your thinking. A trained mind makes safer choices, especially when emotions start speaking louder than wisdom. Now let's be honest about what you have lived through. Because some love looks sweet but carries no weight. Some love sounds romantic but leaves you tired. Some love texts you good morning but disappears when bills, plans, stress, and responsibility enter the room. Some love wants your softness, your time, your body, your attention, your loyalty, but it does not want to carry life with you. And the painful part is this: you can feel loved in moments and still feel alone in reality. That is why this message is different. God is not only promising affection, God is promising partnership. God is not only promising romance, God is promising responsibility. God is not only promising words, God is promising action. Your next spouse will not just love you, they will invest in you and the life you are building. Let's define something clearly, because this is where many hearts get confused. Love is a feeling. Investment is a decision. Love can be spoken. Investment is shown. Love can be intense. Investment is consistent. Love can appear in the beginning. Investment remains in the middle. Love can be chemistry. Investment is capacity. A person can love you and still not have the maturity to maintain you well. A person can love you and still drain you. A person can love you and still sabotage your progress. So God is shifting you from love that feels good to love that builds good. And if you have ever been the only one building, you will understand why that feels like relief. Because some of you have been the investor in every relationship you entered. You invested time. You invested loyalty. You invested patience. You invested forgiveness. You invested prayers. You invested planning. You invested emotional labor. You invested money. You invested your energy. And the other person invested mood. They invested charm. They invested temporary attention. They invested excuses. They invested just enough to keep you hoping. And then when you finally got tired, they acted shocked that you wanted something stable. So when God says your next spouse will invest, He is not teasing you. He is healing you. He is pulling you out of imbalance. Now listen closely. Investment does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks quiet, steady, and practical. And that is why some people miss it. They are trained to notice intensity, not consistency. They are trained to notice excitement, not stability. They are trained to chase sparks, not build fire. But marriage is not built on sparks. Marriage is built on fire that is tended daily. That means effort that repeats. So what does invest in you actually mean? Not in a motivational way, but in real life. It means your next spouse will care about your growth, not just your comfort. It means they will support your healing, not punish your boundaries. It means they will protect your peace, not test your patience. It means they will respect your purpose, not compete with it. It means they will not treat your dreams like a hobby. They will treat your dreams like a future they share with you. let's make it concrete. Imagine you are building something right now. Maybe it is a business. Maybe it is a career. Maybe it is school. Maybe it is a ministry. Maybe it is a skill. Maybe it is your confidence after a hard season. Maybe it is your healing after betrayal. Maybe it is your financial stability after you struggled. Maybe it is your self-respect after being treated casually. The wrong partner sees your building and reacts like this. They distract you when you need focus. They create drama when you need peace. They complain when you are disciplined. They get jealous when you grow. They take your time and call it love. They drain your energy and call it connection. They make your progress harder. An investing spouse sees your building and reacts like this. They ask what you need. They help you protect your time. They encourage your discipline. They celebrate your progress. They support your rest. They contribute to your stability. They make your progress easier. That is not fantasy. That is what mature love looks like. Now, some people here invest and they immediately think money. Money matters, yes, but let's not be childish about it. Throwing money around is not the same as investing. A person can buy gifts and still be selfish. A person can spend big and still be unfaithful. A person can pay for dinner and still be emotionally unsafe. So we need a mature definition. Investment happens in 4 major areas, and when all 4 begin to show up, that is when love becomes marriage ready. First, emotional investment. Second, growth investment. Third, practical investment. Fourth, financial investment with wisdom. Let's go one by one, because this is how your audience stops wasting time. Emotional investment means they do not leave you alone with heavy moments. They do not turn your feelings into a fight. They do not call you dramatic for being human. They do not punish you with silence. They do not disappear when there is tension. They repair. They communicate. They listen. They apologize when they are wrong. They adjust behavior, not just words. You will feel emotional investment when you can say, "That hurt me," and you are met with care instead of defensiveness. You will feel emotional investment when your nervous system is not constantly on alert around them. You will feel emotional investment when your heart can breathe. Investment in your growth. A spouse who invests does not want you stuck. They do not want you small. They do not need you insecure so they can feel safe. They want you whole. They encourage you to learn. They support your goals. They speak life into your potential. They respect your routines. They protect your healing journey. They do not mock therapy. They do not shame your boundaries. They do not sabotage your progress. Some of you are used to partners who only loved you when you were easy. When you started growing, they started acting threatened. That is not love. That is control in a romantic outfit. An investing spouse wants your future to expand, not shrink. Practical investments, this is where many relationships fail. Because people want romance, but avoid responsibility. Practical investment looks like real help, real participation, real planning. It looks like, let's plan our month. It looks like, how can I support your schedule? It looks like, I can handle this task, you rest. It looks like, we are building a home, so let's create structure. It looks like, I noticed you've been stressed, let's Solve it together. Practical investment turns love into relief. Financial investment with wisdom. This is not about spending to impress. This is about stewardship. A spouse who invests financially with wisdom can manage what they have. They budget. They save. They plan. They build. They do not create financial chaos and call it enjoyment. They do not live on appearances. They do not treat money like a toy. They treat money like a tool that protects a future. A show-off spends for applause. A builder invests for stability. So when God says they will invest, He is not saying they will flash money. He is saying they will build a life. Now let's pause on a truth that will protect your audience. Some people perform investment early to gain access. They will look supportive at the start. They will say the right words. They will act helpful. But the moment they feel secure, they withdraw effort. The investment becomes a hook, not a habit. So how do you tell the difference between a performer and a real investor? You do not judge by a moment. You judge by a pattern. Here are the signs of performance. They are generous only when they want something. They become irritated when you slow down. They push your boundaries. They guilt you when you say no. They love big gestures but avoid real responsibility. They talk about the future but avoid planning. They are consistent only during the chase. Here are the signs of real investment. They are steady, not just exciting. They respect timing. They respect boundaries. They show up when it is inconvenient. They care about your peace. They communicate. Through conflict, they plan, they build. They stay consistent after the excitement settles. Now, this next part is important. If you have been underloved, a real investor can feel unfamiliar. You might think, this is too calm. You might even mistake peace for lack of passion. But many people have been trained by unstable love. They think love must hurt a little. To be real, they think love must be hard to earn. They think love must be dramatic. That is not love. That is survival. Your next spouse will not just love you, they will invest in you. That means your next love will feel more like stability than suspense. And that is where your mind needs training. Because a lot of people say they want stable love, but when stable love arrives, they get suspicious. They start looking for a problem. They start testing. They start pulling away. So let me give you a simple rule that saves relationships. Do not punish peace because chaos is familiar. If someone is consistent, do not test them with silence. If someone is trying, do not attack them with assumptions. If someone is building, do not sabotage them with fear. Instead, communicate, observe, grow steadily. Now, let's talk about the life you are building. Because this part will touch hearts deeply. Some of you are building in private. You are not showing everyone. You are working on your mind, your healing, your discipline, your finances, your career. You are trying to become stable. You are trying to become spouse ready. You are trying to become better. And what you need is not someone who distracts you from that. You need someone who honors it. An investing spouse does not act threatened by your discipline. They do not complain about your focus. They do not demand constant attention while you are building. They do not create issues just to pull you away from your purpose. They respect what you are building because they see it as part of their future too. This is why the message says, the life you are building not the life they want to control, not the life they want to benefit from, the life you are building, which means the next spouse will not try to erase your identity. They will protect it. Now, let's be very practical, because people need tools, not just inspiration. Here are questions you can use to measure investment without becoming harsh or interrogating. What are you building in your life right now? This reveals direction. How do you handle stress when life gets heavy? This reveals emotional regulation. What does commitment mean to you? This reveals values. What does loyalty look like in real life? This reveals standards. How do you manage money? This reveals stewardship. How do you handle conflict? This reveals repair skills. What kind of home do you want to build? This reveals vision. A person who is serious does not fear. These questions. A person who is playing will avoid them or become defensive, because clarity exposes intention. Now, I need to address the person who keeps investing in the wrong people because they are kind, loyal, and hopeful. Hope is beautiful, but hope must be guided by evidence. Love is powerful, but love must be guided by wisdom, because if you keep investing in someone who does not invest back, you are not building a future, you are feeding a cycle. So this is your shift. Stop proving your worth through overgiving. Start protecting your future through wise standards. You do not need to overperform to be chosen. The right spouse will recognize your value without you draining yourself to earn it. Now, let's talk about a quiet sign that someone is investing in you. They consider you in their decisions. They do not live like they are single while dating. They do not make major choices without thinking about how it affects you. They do not make you an afterthought. They do not treat your time like it is unlimited. They plan with you in mind. That is investment. And once you experience that, you start realizing how much you tolerated before. Because what many people call normal dating is actually careless dating. It is two people enjoying feelings without building anything. Then when it collapses, they say, it just did not work. But the truth is, it did not work because it was never built. So God says, your next spouse will invest, because the next season is not about temporary feelings. It is about permanent foundations. Now let's be honest about the kind of person who receives an investing spouse. This is important. An investing spouse is attracted to someone who values building. If you want an investor, you must stop rewarding performers. If you want someone who invests in your future, you must stop entertaining people who only want your present. If you want someone who builds, you must stop giving full access to people who show no consistency. This does not mean you become cold. It means you become wise. Wise love moves steadily. Wise love watches patterns. Wise love protects the seed. Wise love chooses alignment before attachment. So here is a mindset that will help you. Attachment says, I like them, so I'll ignore what I see. Alignment says, I like them, but I will still honor what I see. Attachment rushes. Alignment observes. Attachment clings to words. Alignment watches behavior. Attachment fears losing. Alignment values truth. And your future will be protected by alignment. Now, a lot of people ask, how do I position myself to receive that kind of spouse? You do it in 3 ways. First, you clean your standards. You stop negotiating basic respect. You stop accepting confusion. You stop calling inconsistency normal. Second, you clean your environment. You reduce distractions. You stop entertaining people who drain you. You protect your focus. You protect your peace. Third, you clean your patterns. You stop chasing. You stop overgiving. You stop ignoring red flags. You stop moving only by emotion. You start choosing by fruit. This is how you become ready. Now, let's touch something tender. Some of you have been afraid to ask for investment because you were shamed for having needs. You were told you were too demanding. You were told you were high maintenance. You were told you wanted too much. But wanting support is not wrong. Wanting partnership is not wrong. Wanting stability is not wrong. Wanting a spouse who invests is not wrong. That is adult love. That is covenant love. The problem is not wanting investment. The problem is asking for investment from someone who has no capacity. So God says your next spouse will invest. Because God is matching you with capacity, not just attraction. Capacity to communicate. Capacity to plan. Capacity to lead themselves. Capacity to repair. Capacity to steward money. Capacity to build a home. And when you are loved by someone with capacity, love stops feeling like effort you carry alone. Love starts feeling like a shared life. So as you keep listening, let your heart receive this. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are being prepared for a love that supports what you are building, not a love that competes with it. And there is one more thing we must talk about, because it will protect you from choosing wrong, even when the person seems good. We need to talk about the difference between someone who invests because they value you and someone who invests because they want to control you. We need to talk about love that supports versus love that buys access. We need to talk about how to recognize true partnership early, before your heart attaches too quickly. There is a difference between investment and control. And if you don't learn it, you can end up calling something love when it's actually leverage. This is why some people get confused. They meet someone who spends money, gives gifts, offers help, and they assume this person is investing in me. But then later, the same person uses every gift as a weapon. They start reminding you. They start demanding. They start controlling your choices. They start acting like you owe them access, silence, obedience, or tolerance. That is not investment. That is a transaction. So God's promise is not that your next spouse will spend on you. God's promise is that your next spouse will invest in you in a way that protects your dignity and strengthens your future. A spouse who invests does not make you feel purchased. They make you feel partnered. So let's define it clearly. Control says, look what I did for you, now do what I want. Investment says, I support you because I value you and I want us to win together. Control creates fear. Investment creates safety. Control keeps score. Investment builds trust. Control demands quick access. Investment respects timing. Control tries to isolate you. Investment supports healthy boundaries. Control wants you dependent. Investment wants you stable. This matters because many people have never experienced healthy investment. They have only experienced people who give in order to take. And if that's your story, I want you to hear something healing. You are not wrong for wanting a spouse. Who invests? You just need wisdom so you don't confuse generosity with ownership. Now let's go deeper. What does healthy investment feel like emotionally? It feels safe to say no. It feels safe to slow down. It feels safe to ask questions. It feels safe to have your own opinions. It feels safe to keep your identity. It feels safe to grow. It feels safe to be honest. That's a big sign. If a person is investing but you feel afraid to speak, afraid to disagree, afraid to set boundaries, afraid to take time, that is not healthy investment. That is pressure wrapped in giving. A spouse who invests does not rush you into silence. They invite you into partnership. Now let's talk about another trap. Some people invest early as a performance. They give a lot in the beginning because they want your attachment, not your alignment. They want you emotionally bonded, so you stop watching their character. They want you grateful, so you ignore the red flags. They want you impressed, so you stop asking real questions. That's why your protection is not the size of the gesture. Your protection is the consistency of the pattern. A real investor is steady, not dramatic. A real investor is consistent, not intense only. A real investor is patient, not urgent. A real investor is accountable, not defensive. A real investor is calm under pressure, not cruel. So if you want to recognize the spouse God is talking about, stop being blinded by moments and start measuring by months. Stop being impressed by a week and start watching what repeats over time. Now, let's talk about what your future spouse will invest in specifically. Because the message says they will invest in you and the life you are building. That means they will invest in what matters to you, not just what benefits them. They will invest in your peace. They will invest in your stability. They will invest in your healing. They will invest in your purpose. They will invest in your growth. They will invest in the future home you are building. They will invest in the kind of marriage that lasts, not the kind of relationship that looks good online. And this is important. A spouse who invests in you is not threatened by your calling. They do not compete with your purpose. They do not mock your dreams. They do not complain about your discipline. They don't make you feel guilty for being focused. They respect your routine because they see it as part of the life you're building. In fact, they add to it. They protect it. That's how you know this is God aligned. When love and purpose can coexist. Now let's get very practical with a reality check for your audience, because this is where many people lose time. A person is not investing in you if they only show up when they want something. They ignore you when you need support. They avoid serious conversations. They hide their intentions. They refuse to plan. They keep you in confusion. They pressure your boundaries. They punish you for needing clarity. They are inconsistent with effort. They are loyal only when it's convenient. That person may like you, but they are not building with you. A person is investing in you if they keep their word in small things. They show up consistently, even on ordinary days. They communicate through tension instead of disappearing. They take responsibility when they're wrong. They respect your boundaries without punishment. They plan and follow through. They care about your goals. They support your healing. They bring peace more than drama. They make the future feel possible, not stressful. This is not about perfection. This is about posture. Now, let's talk about you. Because if your next spouse will invest in you, God is also inviting you to invest in yourself. That is part of preparation. Some people say they want a spouse who invests, but they refuse to invest in their own healing. They refuse to invest in their own discipline. They refuse to invest in their own growth. Then when a healthy spouse appears, they sabotage it. So, what does investing in yourself look like in this season? It looks like learning to communicate clearly instead of reacting. It looks like setting boundaries without guilt. It looks like choosing peace over validation. It looks like healing your attachment wounds so you stop chasing inconsistency. It looks like building your finances so you stop expecting a spouse to rescue you. It looks like developing skills so your confidence is real. It looks like taking care of your body and mind. It looks like protecting your time and purpose. It looks like becoming the kind of partner who can handle what you're asking for. Because marriage is not only about finding the right person, it's also about being ready to build with them. Now let's talk about the most important word in this whole title, the life you're building. Some of you are building quietly, and you don't even realize how powerful that is. You're building a new mindset. You're building emotional stability. You're building self-respect. You're building a new standard. You're building a future where you don't accept confusion. You're building a life where you are not always stressed. You're building a life where love is not a struggle. And God is saying your next spouse will recognize that building. They will not come to destroy it. They will come to strengthen it. That means your future spouse will not require you to abandon your goals to prove you love them. They will not demand that you shrink your purpose. They will not make you choose between marriage and destiny. They will love you in a way that supports your growth. Now, there is a final protective truth your audience needs. Investment is not only what someone gives. Investment is also what someone protects. A spouse who invests protects the relationship from unnecessary outside interference. Temptation that looks harmless, disrespect in small jokes, neglect that slowly grows, laziness that kills passion, financial chaos, communication silence, unresolved resentment, emotional distance. They don't just love you in words, they protect the environment that love needs to thrive. That's why the right spouse feels like peace. Not because life has no problems, but because you don't feel alone in the problems. You feel like you have a teammate. So let me speak directly to the listener who is tired. Tired of being the only one trying. Tired of being the only one communicating. Tired of being the only one planning. Tired of being the only one forgiving. Tired of being the only one carrying. God sees that. And God is saying, the next love will not drain you. The next love will build you. And with that, we close with a decision. You will stop entertaining people who only want your present. You will stop rewarding charm without commitment. You will stop confusing gifts with character. You will stop giving deep access without clear intention. You will stop calling struggle normal love. You will choose partnership. You will choose consistency. You will choose peace. You will choose a spouse who invests. Now, take action with me, right? Now, subscribe if you haven't yet, because staying connected is how your mind stays trained and your standards stay strong. Like this message, so it reaches someone who is building but keeps attracting distractions. Comment, I am worth real investment, to seal it in your spirit. And share this with one person who keeps pouring into people who never pour back. God says your next spouse won't just love you. They'll invest in you and the life you're building, and you will recognize them. Not because they are loud, but because they are consistent, protective, and ready to build something real.